Hello and welcome to the Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Nowakowski. I am a salon owner, educator, mindset, and leadership coach that helps salon owners go from overwhelmed and burnt out to motivated and empowered. It is my mission to help you systemize your business, generate more profit, and create a career that you are absolutely in love with. Join us every week to learn about the small shifts you can make to elevate your business regarding mindset, marketing, social media, business systems, and so much more. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I am so excited moving into 2024 because this year is all about intention. It is intentionally creating the results that you want in your business and really transforming how you do your day-to-day to really create the business and life that you love by strategic planning and really just taking charge of everything in your business. If you've been feeling overwhelmed and overworked from owning your salon, you're not alone. If you're like many salon owners, you wanted to build a salon that makes you feel fulfilled, passionate, and something that brings you freedom and flexibility into your life. But you ended up being exhausted from taking on all your business tasks alone. It doesn't have to be this way. It's time for change. The Elevated Salon Owner Collective will help you do just that. You'll automate your salon, implement solid business systems, transform your salon culture, and take charge of your online presence to regain freedom back into your business. I'd love for you to experience the freedom and fulfillment that you've desired when you decided to create your business. To learn more, visit opulentbeautypro.com/elevate or click the link in the show notes. So today I would like to talk about budgeting. I think budgeting is one of the most difficult things that salon owners can't really grasp and can't really get a hold of because our businesses are just very, I don't want to say unique, but you need what you need, right? When you have to order. Things fluctuate so much in our business. So today I'm going to go over my tips and make sure you listen to the very end because I have an exciting announcement that will be free to you. So let's chat about budgeting. If you are someone who struggles with creating a budget for your business or a budget feels overwhelming and impossible, I'm going to give you some tips today on how I plan for the new year to create a budget for my business. And remember, when we are doing budgeting, we're really just creating a projection for the new year. And this year is the perfect year to start that. So our goal in business is to make sure that we are experiencing growth every single year, right? So the best way to really start looking at a budget is really creating a baseline off of last year's numbers and hoping and strategizing to create more revenue for your business so you can experience growth from year to year. So my goal for our salon is to create at least 20% more revenue than we did last year. I feel like that's a very healthy, attainable goal. When we actually create healthy and attainable goals, it actually helps us stay on track because when we set goals that are really kind of out of reach, it can really be discouraging, especially when we don't hit those goals month to month. So here are my tips for really creating a budget. I want you to grab a pen and a pencil, and I want you to write down all of these things that I am sharing with you today so you can kind of get a grasp on what you need to do in order to create a budget for 2024. So the first place I really like to start when it comes to creating a budget is I pull all of my numbers from last year. I look at my total color cost. I look at my payroll expenses. When I look at my payroll expenses, I separate support staff from my commission employees because those are two different types of payroll expenses. Your support staff is something that you can cut, and your commission employees are something that generate revenue. So these are completely different categories when it comes to payroll expenses. You want to pull your back bar expenses. That's the products that you've used. You want to pull the amenities that were used last year. You want to look at these expenses for the entire year, and then you want to look at them individually for month to month. Now, when we look at all of these expenses, color costs, all of these things, it's going to give you an idea of what your percentages are for each one of these expenses. So you have to do the math. For example, what percentage did that take up in your revenue? So for me, when I did the math, our color costs were 2.75% of all of our revenue, right? So this will give me a really good baseline of what the color expenses will be for this year if we stay on track. Now, when we're looking at these numbers, we also want to look at percentage of support staff. Like for me, our support staff was about 17% of our overall amenities for our clients. Our commission costs were roughly about 48% of our total costs. That includes taxes and all of those things. And you really want to make sure that you are really creating just a really good baseline of what your overall expenses are. So the formula to figure out what percentage your expenses are to your overall revenue, and I want you to write this down. You want to take the cost of the expense. So that's your total cost for color. So for example, if you spent $50,000 on color this year, you want to divide that by your total revenue for the year. So let's just say your color costs were $50,000. Your total revenue for the year was $650,000. You want to take that cost, divide it by your total revenue, and then you want to multiply that by 100. And this will give you the percentage of all of your expenses for the year. Now, this is a great way to evaluate the health of your spending in your business. So, for example, you want to look at each one of these expenses and are these percentages on point or are they too high to sustain your business? So when we look at these percentages, where can you cut to make more profit? How can you create more revenue to get the percentages where you need them? And you really want to make sure that you're really looking at these numbers. You're taking a healthy look at what these expenses are every single month in your business. So not only do I do the math for the entire year to give me just a basic average, but then I'm also going to look at my month to month. So for example, if you had a $50,000 month, and your color expenses for that month was 10%, that's really high for your color expenses. So you really want to evaluate the entire year, and then you want to break down month to month to really see where you overspent and what the expenses were for the dollar amount you brought in for each month. So for example, a healthy percentage for your rent is about 10%. For color, you really want no more than 6% of your total revenue. So when we look at these numbers, we want to use last year as a projection by month and by week. Let's say you generated $50,000 last January, then that is the bare minimum goal for this year. So we want to make sure, again, that we are creating the same amount of revenue as last year. And we want to look at it not only by month, but then we want to break it down by week. So we would take that $50,000, we would divide it by 4, and then that is our weekly target for the revenue we should be creating. So that would be $12,500. Now, Something we need to consider before we actually create the budget or really kind of create our baseline is the revenue that each employee brought in over the last year. So, do all of your employees still work for you? If not, then you need to deduct the percentage that they brought in for the upcoming projected year if you did not replace that employee and the revenue. For example, if you had an employee bring in 15% of last year's revenue from January to March, and if they quit in March, then you should really project 15% less for this year, January through February. Again, the formula for this is the employee's total revenue divided by the salon revenue and times it by 100, and that will show you what the percentage of each employee brought in. Now, I might add, doing this will also show you the vulnerability you have in your business. If you have someone bringing in 25% or more of your total revenue, that can be a potential hazard and a problem, because if that person leaves, that is a huge deduction in the revenue generated by your business. So if you see that you have somebody who is really sustaining the revenue for your salon, how can you spread that risk out and build up the other team members to make sure that your risk is spread across the entire salon and is not just held to one employee? Because we don't want to be held hostage by our employees, and we don't want to be at risk, especially that kind of risk, when we have one person bringing in the majority of our overall revenue. So that's something to consider. So when we look at that number and we look at last year's projection, this will help us create a baseline of what we need to bring in to stay on track for this year. So for an easy example, let's just say you have all the same employees from last year. Let's just say last year, January, you brought in $50,000. Your projection is about $12,500 for each week. So how are we going to stay on track to make sure that we are hitting this goal, right? So if you have a good booking system, and I recommend Vagaro, it will show you what your booking percentage is and the projection for each upcoming week for the entire month. So we want to look at this weekly, and then we want to look at the budget. And if we need to update the budget because it doesn't fit the projection, then that's what we need to do. How off are you? And what's the projected plan to get the numbers where you need them to be? What social media do you need to do? Do you need to run a promotion? Do you need to really coach and push your team members to really kind of focus on getting clients in for the week? For example, for me, when I looked at this month's projection, so for January, my projection for this month was $50,000. That's the baseline I want to bring in, right? And that's about $12,500 a week, which I shared with you. When I look at my booking percentage in the first week of January, we are only at 36% capacity, which is not great, right? My projection for the salon sales are roughly about $6,000, which is less than half of what I need the salon to bring in. Now, I have a couple things going on for this month to kind of push sales in my salon. Every single year, I do an annual extension sale in January. And the reason why I do this is because it really pushes our extension clients to buy new hair. It pushes people and revenue in the business. It gets people excited about getting hair. It gets people interested in extensions that possibly, weren't planning on it because the cost was too high. So this kind of eliminates some of the risk and the financial investment. So that is one thing that I do every January to boost sales. Now, my extension sales are not going to show in my projection for the month, right? So I will have to look at the revenue, multiple times through the week to see where the projection is so I can make sure that we stay on track for that goal. Now, I also have other things bringing in revenue for my business. I have coaching that I, do with students, and I work one-on-one with salon owners to help build their business. I also have salon suites that bring in revenue, which will, boost our sales a couple $1,000s every week. So there are things that I know will produce revenue for my salon. But overall, I would really like to keep the salon on track and keep the budgeting with the salon just for the salon. But if I need to pull things from other resources, then I will to make sure we stay on track. Okay. Once we look at these numbers, once we look at the updated projection, because we really want to stay on track, we don't want to overspend. And once we make the, initial decision of what the projection for the week will be, then we need to make hard decisions. Because if your projection for the week is not hitting last year's revenue goal, then we need to make adjustments in what we're spending money on and how we're staffing our salon. And we have to make hard decisions. So where do you need to cut to fill all of the expenses in your budget to stay on track? What do you need to add if you are going to project more revenue than last year? And you really want to make sure too, by doing this budget, are your prices on point and commission percentages at a place to create profit, right? And the way that we're going to do that is by creating a spreadsheet. You can either use Google, or you can use your Numbers app on your phone or on your Mac. And if you do not have a spreadsheet, you're in luck, because I do have one for you. And you can download this spreadsheet and you can utilize it and adjust the percentages to really make sure that you are at a healthy, sustainable point for your business. So when we are really focused on staying on top of financial planning, it has to be a weekly task. No excuses. You need to be proactive with your results. You need to be smart and strong in your decision making, and you need to hold yourself accountable to really make sure that you are staying on track with your spending and you are staying in a place that you can hold yourself accountable. So here is what I'm excited to share with you. We are having a free year planning class through the Elevated Salon Owner Collective. I'm going to walk you through the whole process, give you all the spreadsheets you need in order to financially plan for a healthy business. This is going to be on January 28th at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. In the show notes, we will have a link to sign up. There are only 50 spots for this free class. So if you want to join, please make sure you hold your spot. I also ask that if you are not going to make it, that you cancel to open up the opportunity for other people. And if you are somebody who needs help with accountability or really needs help with organizing your business, or really just kind of feel lost and just not prepared to be intentional with your upcoming year for 2024, check out the Elevated Salon Owner Collective. There are so many resources for salon owners, so many classes, messaging with me, one-on-one calls. You can even book a one-off call to just get some information you need to really get on track for this year so you can create the business and the life you love. And you can do all of that by looking in the show notes, and all of the resources will be there. And I hope that you really go into 2024 with intention and with strategy so you can create the business that you really want and not let things happen by accident. Because when we let things happen by accident, then we really don't get the results that we want. Happy New Year. I'm really excited to share this knowledge and information with you. So be sure to check out the show notes and click the link to enroll in our free class on January 28th. Thanks for tuning in to the Elevate podcast. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. The Elevate podcast is hosted by me, Patricia Nowakowski, and is produced by Opulent Beauty Pro. To receive my free business guides, visit opulentbeautypro.com/free or click the link in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at Opulent Beauty Pro or at Patricia_Nowakowski_OBS. If you love this show, please consider subscribing, and we will see you next week.